Yes, Roy. Look, I feel as though we should talk at length and in depth about the problems in South Africa for the Australian cricket teams. I mean, it is a bit of a soft target, I agree. But obviously things have come totally, the wheels have fallen totally off the wagon. Everybody can see that. I believe, though, that if I could just develop a couple of points early on. That there is something going on in South Africa, which I believe was hinted at in a tremendous spray by Peter Roebuck, who is probably arguably the finest cricket writer in the world, when he simply alerted me to the fact that Bloemfontein, the Australians didn't partake of the smoked lamb generously provided by their hosts, instead sent out daily for greasy hamburgers. Now, this worries me. I mean, I understand people drawing a line to the Wors and finding it a bit hard to stomach, you know, barbecued Wors, but the smoked lamb was tremendous at Bloemfontein, and it does disappoint me that the Australians are locked, siege-like mentality in the hotel. They're sending out notes through cracks in the, concrete cancer in front of them. A note saying, could we have some hamburgers, please? They're going down to the Blue and White Cafe in Bloemfontein, not to, obviously the people who sponsor the AFL footy and where they know what they're getting. And, obviously people are putting things into the hamburgers, which have encouraged them, making them more paranoid, more siege-like in their mentality. When it comes to the playing of the cricket, obviously, anybody says anything, it's okay just a whack over the head from Merv. That's the only... They've got no way of replying with their cricket to silence the crowd. It's just belt them. And, if you tell me the Merv hasn't heard what he heard in, obviously the Wanderers ground over last weekend and early into this week before.
Fat idiot.
That sort of gear. Yeah, go home, Merv. Things like that. Merv, what are you doing? Who are you looking at, Merv? Things like that. Then I believe that somebody's, badly astray here, because I've heard people shout at Merv in the West Indies, similar sorts of things, in England, in every ground in Australia.
In the Sheffield Shield.
In the Sheffield Shield. And I don't know what's going on with Merv, but obviously, something sprung up top.
Yes. Are they taking drugs?
Well, it did occur to me that they are. I just saw Shane Warne described by an authority in the one of the leading papers in Sydney as behaving like a baboon on acid.
A baboon on acid.
I'm sure you did too, and
I saw
the
that.
Tremendous writer who would not be making up things like that unless he had his facts right. So a baboon on acid, I believe you're right. They're taking drugs. It must be some sort of Velt green that they've got into there that's really spinning them out. And I think that
it does look drug-induced, doesn't it? A sort of drug-induced frenzy of madness that's creeping through various members of the team. I've my position on drugs in sport has always been very clear. Don't do it. It's just stupid. Now, if AB and the Hughes fellow and Warne are sitting around with a hooker or something like that.
In the hotel room.
Eating
the greasy hamburgers.
And then ordering out for hamburgers, etc., then this is going to express itself in different psychological ways out on the field. Now, they did... I remember, first looking at the delayed coverage on one of the television stations here in Australia, and I thought there was something very weird about the way they looked. That is, AB, Warne and Hughes, they were red-eyed, their hand-eye coordination wasn't as it should have been, they were having trouble standing up on occasion, they were giggling inappropriately, they were laughing at the strangest sorts of things, they were getting upset over the slightest criticisms coming from the outer, which I thought in the main were in good humour.
Yeah. And good spirit.
In very good spirit.
Jollying them along. They were going down, but the crowd was supportive of the loss.
Yes.
And when you look... Sorry,
No. Well, there's that level. There is the drug-induced frenzy of madness theory that I'm putting forward here. And, with Bobby Simpson involved, anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Yes.
And the other level that I thought might be worth hastily constructing a thesis upon might be the political level. Now, perhaps Hudson, being an Afrikaner, does have a certain political view with vis-a-vis the elections nigh. Obviously, there is constitutional turmoil in South Africa. We've only got to see the ructions appearing between, say, the ANC and Chief Buthelezi to know that these might be permeating into the cricket team as well. Now, if Hudson was an AWB supporter, if he was a Eugene Terblanche swastika-striding style type, then you can understand that Warne may, for political reasons, have wanted to vent his fury, not only with a craftily concealed flipper, but with a bit of mouthing off as well. Now, if the kitty had come out at the end of the day and said, well, it's for political reasons that I advance this cascade of verbal diarrhea and abuse that was humourless and perhaps quasi-drug-induced at Hudson, then I would have been the first to forgive him, and would have written then an appropriate letter to the Australian Cricket Board and the International Cricket Authority saying that there are reasons here, there are grounds for the behaviour. Now, but nobody has come out and said this. So I'm not sure whether there are obviously there would be different, differing and varied political persuasions within the South African lineup. Whether this is expressing itself in the various attitudes the Australians do have towards them. I noticed that Shane Warne's a very, very good friend, not so much of Hansie Cronje, but of little Jonty Rhodes. Now, Jonty Rhodes, I know, is an ANC supporter. Now, maybe Shane is pinning his political colours vis-a-vis his attitude on the playing field, and that I don't think is a bad thing.
Yes. Well, I take your point entirely, Roy. You know, obviously the dark glasses, the funny stares into the camera,
and
with
the
photographs, the earrings,
everything suggesting drugs.
Yes, that's
drugs.
Right. And you know, the rolling paraphernalia in every shot that we see from South Africa in the hotel room.
Yes.
But two things can I point out?
Were they purchasing like cigarette papers or anything like that? Or was there any indication or
the tally-ho dividend in South Africa has gone through the roof. Yes. People are investing in tally-ho papers vis-a-vis, you know, your what I'd say, your front end, i.e. your investment end, as opposed to purchasing them over the counter.
Yes, I understand.
End.
The stocks and shares have gone through the roof.
Straight through the roof. Can I raise two things? I want to mention a name, Cam Battersby.
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't come across Cam in an official capacity before, but let me first say that I've admired everything he's done, ever. Tremendous bloke, and a tremendous personality, and a tremendous cricket mind.
Oh, yes.
He seems to be the manager now of the team. I don't know when Cam was...
The Australian team?
The Australian team.
Cam Battersby.
Yes. I'm not sure when Cam came on board. Obviously, Simo at the top doing
Was
nothing.
he a Channel 9 appointment?
I would have to think
appointment?
I would like to think he's injected a little bit of old-fashioned entertainment value into it. Cam said Merv was provoked, and incidentally, can't Merv dish it out, but when it comes to taking it, the lights are on and no one's home. You know, Merv, he can shout all bloody day long, but when somebody grunts at him, it's bash him over the head with a bat. Going back to Cam, Merv was provoked, according to Cam. We did know about it, but we did not want to make an issue of it. Overall, I don't think we have a problem. Now, I wonder if Cam's on the same giggling gear.
Overall? Well, I'd say Cam's been sitting around the very same hooker, buying the very same papers that Hughes, Warne, Border and Simpson have been doing.
Yes.
Cam. Well, Cam's the difference. Cam's probably given them the idea.
The go-ahead.
The go-ahead, the green light.
Right, can I also say, firstly, what a magnificent spell of bowling it was in the second innings from Merv Hughes. I taped every...
luck, yes.
Bowled without a lot of luck. I taped every ball. I think at the end of the innings he got 1 wicket for 86 runs off 25 overs. Very, very economical. And obviously, as you point out, bowled without luck. And I believe that he is now bowling better than ever. That 1 for 86, I was worried, sure. I was, you know, let's face it, I've had many disagreements with Merv over the years.
Who hasn't?
Indeed, who hasn't? But his 1 for 86 was very, very fine. And I would like to plead on behalf of young bowlers in Australia, that they be allowed to work on their send-offs. I mean, obviously, this is where it started. Warney got a wicket, a lucky wicket, I think, bowling Hudson round his legs. It may be third ball into his spell.
Yes.
He got a send-off that got him, as nearly as I can tell, the best part of he kept sending him off at least 75 metres away from the wicket.
Yes.
But I believe that in the future, send-offs will be judged as more important than the wicket-taking itself in cricket. That the send-off that can get the player from the crease back up into the dressing sheds with the pads taken off in a shower, coming back changed into civvies, so to speak. The bowler still going, you know, you mook, you loser, you has-been, you joke, you clown, you dork, etc., etc., etc.
Yes, and more sailors blushing sort of language too, HG, not to be forgotten.
Indeed, and then I hope to see, before I die, a bowler able to walk towards the grandstand in the dressing room, drop the togs, turn around and spray the whole thing with brown. You know, then and only then will I feel as though the send-off has reached its true pinnacle in the game. And, you know, obviously judges will have scorecards which they'll hold up, you know, for each send-off, you know, points out of 10. And these will be taken into account in the scoring system.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I have always wanted to see with a send-off the batsman followed by the entire team, heckling, abusing, all the way up through the players' race, into the dressing room, as you say, into the shower, then out into the car park, torch his car, and if the person lives locally, go and do the house over. then return for the, in that time, the incoming batsman would have had time to get in and take guard, etc., and prepare himself for the next onslaught. But I've always thought there's been room, as you say, for the send-off, and I would like to see it taken in extremis, because I think that is the future of cricket. And I think that's where Cam Battersby is coming from.
Just before we go on, voodoo.
Oh, yes.
Voodoo in South Africa, could it be another element of this puzzle? Because
Well, it
this
is,
puzzle
yes.
is getting Rubik Cube-like.
Yes, it is a very old culture. You know, the Dutch, etc., have only been there a relatively short time, and I feel don't really understand many of the odd things that can happen in the night. Witchcraft has been mentioned, and it wouldn't surprise me if a hex might have been placed on the Australian team. And if you were going to voodoo-ize, and I coin that term advisedly, any of the Australian team, you'd have to say it would be Merv and Shane. That'd be the first two that you would work on. Now, we've run up the flagpole the theory of, the political instability affecting the team, drugs, and maybe voodoo is the missing piece of the puzzle, or all three. But it's a pretty heady mix, drugs, voodoo and politics. Very, very heady mix. And I would be prepared to accept if Cam Battersby has been embraced as part of the management for the tour, to have either a priest, certainly a religious person, who could try to diffuse the potential voodoo that might have been placed upon the team, to exorcise them. It's pretty easy to do. You just, read the Lord's Prayer backwards and, run outside, turn around 3 times, whistle, mention the Scottish play and come in. And I think that'll do the trick. I'd give it a go.
Roy, obviously, I think that when you are in Rome, you do as Rome does. Now, basically, I believe if it's voodoo we're talking about, then you
fight fire with fire?
Fight fire with fire. You get a sort of small image of Henzi Cronier out of the paper, you cut around it, you stick it on it. Look, I don't want to give away too many trade secrets, but let me say...
You jump up and down on it and put a couple of pins in.
That's right. Well, you get pins in the spots that matter, i.e. in the batting, say, hands.
In the hands.
The bowling hands.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of foul yard animals, barnyard animals.
Yeah. Cut the livers out.
Cut the livers out. And then obviously do things with fire and sulphur and all those sort of things with the doll, with the pins in it.
Incantations? Would there be special words?
Yeah.
Henzi Cronier is a joke.
Turn around 3 times, mention the Scottish play, then have a look at the pancreas. Joke with the ball. Things like this. So I believe we've got to send somebody over there. I don't know who to entrust this mission to.
No.
But we've got to send...
Simo could do it.
Yes, but there's no point ringing up Simo and saying, Simo, hello, H.G. and Roy here. Voodoo, Simo, it's just a word. We want to plant it in your mind. You listening, Simo? Because Simo's going to be ordering greasy hamburgers, a couple of steak sandwiches and chips with a lot.
And cleaning out the apparatus.
That's right. Where's the zigzags? And anyway... I believe we've got to send a person from Australia, somebody who understands the secrecy of the mission, get them on the next plane to Joburg. I think you can get Perth to Joburg direct now.
Well, you need a Warwick Moss type. Send Warwick Moss over.
Now, is Warwick the person who presents extraordinary?
Or the extraordinary, yeah. But I think that embraces the supernatural.
Yes.
God almighty, if the supernatural isn't extraordinary, I don't know what is.
I reckon Ann Sanders and Warwick Moss on a secret mission.
Oh, yeah, with a Henzi Cronier doll. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, a couple of chooks.
Don't tell me that we're
without
not
a
down to
Henzi
that crime.
Cronier doll, I mean, you'd have to let Henzi know that you were doing it, because I think that's how it really works.
Well, Tim Webster's show.
Yeah,
Just to
broadcast it.
Yes, we interview Warwick and Ann Sanders.
Yeah, from a different network, but that wouldn't worry 10, I don't suppose.
Surely the interest of cricket are beyond television rivalries. And, let's face it, we're going down the gurgler at a great rate here in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah.
It's crumbling like an old crusket. What I was going to say...
Well, I'd grab the doll, let Hansi know what you're going to do. Hansi, I've got a doll of you, and we've got Warwick Moss here and Ann Sanders, and we're going to do a bit of bloody voodoo, fella. And what we're going to do is, obviously kill the chickens and cover you, smear you with, their innards, and then we're going to cut the head off, boot it up the date, and jump all over it. And then we're going to burn it. And how are you going to feel then, bro? Happy batting.
Hello? Oh, is that you, Ian? What a night last night. How did you go getting home? Well, look, I had a bit of a fright. I was about halfway back to Dapto when I saw it way up ahead. It looked like an accident. A film set, sirens, lights flashing, and then before I could pull a Cumble and throw it, dawned on me. It was a booze bus. I was the only car on the road. They flagged me down and the copper strolled over to me. He said,
Okay, son, give us a spray.
my whole life flashed before me. My licence, my career, my spot on the tour to Argentina. Then I realised I'd been on the lights all day. This sporting light. I gave the Sarge a spray and I was on my way. Yes, playmakers, you can drink it all night, get blasted and still be all right. That's this sporting light. The taste of an angel crying on your tongue.
Boy, Fred Nile, I don't know how many people in Australia would know Fred's work outside New South Wales. I'd like to think that he does have a bit of a pull in parts...
profile.
A profile.
Yeah.
In parts outside the Sydney Metrop area. He's got a new movement going, and when Fred moves, I like to stand back and watch. And Freddie's setting up Men for the Family. It's a move to help men reassert themselves and rediscover their important role in the family in this, the year of the family, 1994. And Freddie said he hoped the new movement would be launched later this month and would help, and as a bold initial step, it's going to hope to prevent hundreds of the suicides that we seem to be experiencing among the youth of the nation at the moment. Fred said to us exclusively for This Sporting Life, it's time for men to reassert themselves and carry out their male role, male duties and male responsibilities as men, husbands and fathers. We hope and pray that our new movement will help men, especially young men, to rediscover their important role in the family and society, and so help with the hundreds of teenage males who are taking their own lives hourly. Look, we are asking men to come along to Parliament House next, men of all persuasions, to come along to Parliament House on May the 2nd and be part of Fred's new movement, Men for Family. And I do ask men not to be scared of this. There's going to be a talk to start off with at 7 o'clock. Fred's going to talk for about an hour and a half about where men went wrong. And then we're going to screen Reservoir Dogs. And then Fred's going to come out and do some more talking, and he's going to talk about what men can do about it. That'll take about another 90 minutes. And then Roy and I are going to show a Bluey. Now, this unfortunately has received a lot of negative comment in the press.
Which one?
As you can hear.
Which one are we showing?
We're showing Laurie Daly Does Dubbo. And it's tasteful, it's in the European style, and it's black and white. So we do ask people to have an open mind and watch this. Then there's a barbecue out back of Parliament House and a parade of night tools, which I think could be the highlight of the evening.
Are we having a strip show? I'd love a strip show.
Wait a minute, Roy. I'll get your thoughts on the night in a moment. And then, as a highlight of the night, we're going to release a lot of, and I'm not comfortable with this term, but Roy is, and so I use it knowing that he will understand it, bush junk, into the area behind Parliament House in Sydney, which is the Domain area. Some people will be familiar with the Domain, the area between the Parliament House sort of end of town and the Art Gallery and the Carl Expressway, cornered on the far side by the Carl Expressway.
Get away.
That's right. And so we're going to have in there a lot of hairy-nosed potoroos, wallabies, things like this. We're hoping to get a container load of platypuses, which we're just going to let go, and we're going to give every man a shotgun and see if that doesn't bring out the real male in you. And so it's a big night. Obviously, Fred's got it all pretty well worked out. Roy, it's obviously something that men would want to make a note of in their diaries.
Yes.
Do you feel we've lacked anything apart from, as you say, the strip?
I like to I'd like to... I don't know if you can get testosterone tablets, but I'd like to think you could. So you could really get that level really up. So that you could... And fighting. I'd imagine... as soon as I arrive, I'm going to plant one right on Fred Nile. He'll thank me for it. I'm sure he'll thank me for it.
Well,
I'm going to bust his plug. Yeah? For a start.
Yes.
And then talk about it.
Yes.
Oh, bugger it, I'm not going to talk about it. I'll just bust someone else's plug.
Yeah.
I think if we, let your organ do the talking.
Well, maybe there could be the banner out the front of Parliament House.
Yeah.
May the 2nd, let your organ do the talking. And I think that people need to see this in the perspective. We are trying to obviously, with this
Bring men
movement.
back.
Yeah, get men back, bouncing back,
bouncing
countrymen
back.
expect Albany Elias. And obviously the highlights here will be the shooting at the end, which I hope
Yeah.
does get reasonable press.
Yes.
Because people will think that we're just blowing away bush junk for the fun of it. But people need to see it as therapy. People need to see it as part of a process, a continuing process, that'll start from the time Roy smacks one on Fred Nile on the steps of Parliament House on the way in
Busting
to the
his
last...
plug.
Busting his plug. Till, would that be a Patcham Cox plug? To the time that the last bullet is fired out back of the domain. And as I point out, you know, the Bluey is obviously the talking point of the evening, and rightly so.
Oh, well, I think if you fire
sorry.
on a Bluey, I mean, there's nothing like watching a bloody big Bluey that's got everything, you know. It's got the bloody little cameras attached to the flute and all that sort of gear.
Yeah.
And in full colour. I don't hope it's not black and white. I want the full bloody colour.
Well, we can
And
colour
sound
it up.
effects.
Sound effects. Well, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a silent.
And then to be released into a big paddock full of junk with, you know, just a couple of bloody... I'd go, I don't want a gun, I'd like just to be able to tear things apart.
By yourself?
Yeah.
For a minute I thought you were going to say you wanted a 25-pounder.
Well,
Tremendous to see it.
well, a couple of grenades would be good.
Yeah.
It's just anything. Look, I think it's a good idea.
Look,
I
you've
think
got me
it'll work.
worried now.
And there are a lot of people, a lot of blokes who
Be keen on
who
a
are
lot
looking
like
for
that.
the green light.
Yeah. Well, I know Fred.
blokes.
I know. Well, Fred is.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the strip. I left it off the card, even though I obviously could have included it,
Yeah.
largely because of the surroundings of Parliament House. Now, your up-close table dancing, I think, is in. You know, an idea that...
What about a wet tea?
I think that could be included. I think that would be a tremendous addition, because that sort of goes some of the way to answering, obviously, the need that you feel and the way you're expressing it. I'm hearing you.
Yes.
I'm hearing
you hear where I'm coming
strip-wise.
from, man?
I am. And so a wet tea competition, and I think... and I think that we should obviously have to raise money for the movement. I've forgotten what we're calling
Fred
it.
Nile men's movement.
The friend mom did let your organ do the talking. And I think that we would have to be able to
Finish the night off with a real movement.
Killaboon style. And certainly I think we would be raising money and asking people to be prepared to raise money on simple trays of meat and, you know, sort of chickens and so on,
Yes.
things like that.
Yes.
And I'm sure they could come in handy later on.
Yes. No, I think he's right. When you look at the order of...
Problems.
even the political order in Australia, there aren't enough men involved. Men have taken a back seat. If you look at business, you know, men are under threat, they're under siege. You know, they're having to construct bloody ceilings, glass or otherwise, all the while. I mean, the pressure's right on, and blokes are bloody sick, I think. I think Fred's right. A lot of men are just sick and tired of having to look behind them. You shouldn't have to.
Or care about anyone else but
Exactly.
themselves.
I mean, you should, in the family, in Fred's vision of the family, a bloke should be able to bloody well get out of bed. There's your brekkie. You have your brekkie, you walk in, why isn't the bed made yet?
That's right. Where's the paper?
Where's the paper? Where's my clean undies?
Yeah.
Where are my socks?
Yeah.
Who left those shoes there?
Yeah.
What the bloody hell is going on?
And when you get to work...
I'll be out washing the car. Let me know when everything's ready. You know what I mean? They're the sort of old bloody values that I think we've got to get back to.
Can I ask how this night and this whole movement, you know, Fred talking, obviously, the Reservoir Dogs, the Bluey, the barbecue and the shoot, will prevent youth suicides, though? When he gave us the thumbs up to go ahead and organise it, I thought, well, hello, he's taken it pretty easily.
Yes.
I'm just wondering the connection between that and, obviously, younger people topping themselves because they can't fit in.
Well, it's a connection that we can't see yet.
No, that's
But
right.
I'm sure it will emerge.
On the night.
Yes. You know, when Fred's, you know, just sticking his plug back together. I'm sure he'll be able to make the connection for us.
Well, I bet you by the time I've actually done all of this, you know, seen Reservoir Dogs, heard Fred talk, watched the Bluey, Laurie Daly does Dubbo, had the barbecue and seen the Parade of Night Tools, the wet tea,
Yeah.
you know...
Can we
the
have big trucks? Can we have a truck super pricks?
Hey, just wait a minute. And the close table dancing, and then followed by a bit of a shoot out the back of Parliament House, and hopefully I'll get a couple of platypus, which I've never shot before. I'm looking forward to that enormously. You know, I'm sure a number of connections will be made through that process. Now, the big truck super pricks, I believe we have to set up a bit of a circuit. And I don't know, Roy, I'd love to see them start, say, on the Darling Harbour side of the city, and we invent a loop that, say, went up over the Kale Expressway, so as you can see them coming, then down, you know, through the Domain, then up through...
Well, I haven't heard it along.
Well, I was just thinking just a race.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to have a fairly large area for your starting area, but then it narrows down dramatically,
Funnel-wise.
funnel-wise, and then, you know, hopefully a lot of corners Because there's nothing funnier than seeing a truck go off on a corner, especially on a raised roadway that you do have in Sydney.
I tell you what I'd like to see with the Super Tricks as well is...
Nude drivers?
Well, not only that, but nudes strapped to the front of the trucks, yeah? And bush junk just thrown onto the roadway, willy-nilly. You know, just hurl one over the side and boom! Wouldn't that stop suicides?
Would it be so clear, the connection between life and life, that you couldn't help but make it yourself?
Yeah, look, hats off.
Why hasn't somebody done it before?
I don't know.
Why do we need Fred to bring these things up? I mean, he's the only bloke in Australian Parliament who's thinking.
I was going to say, he's the only bloke left in Christendom. That'd give it an interesting ambience, wouldn't it?
Yeah, John Coltrane.
John Coltrane,
and the Wind
Thelonious Monk.
And the Wind in the Willows panel.
Yes. Well, that's almost...
Ornithology.
Yes. Charlie Parker.
Yeah,
yes.
well, that's going back a bit further, but, you know, obviously that's the root side.
Yes.
Dizzy Gillespie doing something with, you know, on the, without the flute on the mute.
Yes.
Have I said that right?
No,
Mute on the flute.
Yes. Yes, with the bell hanging at the
that's right.
ceiling.
Yes.
Yeah. And the cheeks puffed. Something like that. Something like that might work. Go to the jazz end. Because it's a very jazz sort of game.
Well,
it's a lot of...
Thelonious Monk.
You know,
Charlie Mingus.
A lot of extemporising.
Yes, that's what I get your point entirely. When you look at Essendon play, there's an acid jazz mind there,
Yes.
i.e. Kevin Sheedy.
Yes, yes.
Thelonious Monk, your Art Blakely and the Jazz Messengers. Gee, that's tremendous. Or Jerry Lewis. Not Jerry Lewis, Jerry Mulligan.
Jerry Mulligan, the baritone sax
yes,
man.
That's right.
Wow, that'd give it to... Well, you'd use that on a rainy day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's right. So you get out the Blue Note catalogue.
So I think there are a lot of possibilities there.
I do myself prefer, you know, something so close.
There's nothing to sing along with those ones.
No. Well...
Unless you put a lyric
to
in.
it. Yeah, with a lot of man.
Yeah.
Wig out.
With a husky voice, sort of.
Yes.
AFL.
You Tommy, what's his name, Waite style.
I suppose.
Yes. Have I got the right bloke?
Yeah, Tom Waits.
Tom Waits,
yeah.
You know, late at night. The other thing is that I believe, though, that very hard to get... I've never connected it too much with hot pants, your acid jazz. I mean, that's probably a failing of mine, but I believe it should have some sort of hot pant elements in it, either male or female.
You mean just sex? Is that what you mean?
I was trying to avoid the use of the word because I do think it sets football, it gives football, I mean, obviously rugby league is just mobile sex, and it makes it very hard for the AFL to catch up once you've got that. But I believe there's angles there. I believe the monolith of sex that rugby league has created has got, and I don't mean this to be misunderstood, cracks in it, which can be exploited by the AFL.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Sort of acid crack jazz. With a bit of sex thrown in. Is that what you mean?
Basically, I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Acid crack jazz. I don't know if anyone's doing that sort of stuff.
There must be.
There must
be people out there.
In the Big Apple.
Yeah, the Big
in
Apple.
New York, in some basement somewhere.
We should send somebody over to find out.
Yes.
You know, surely Molly Meldrum, I know, who's a mad St Kilda buff, should get over there and root around and dig something out, sniff something out.
Yes, something that really oozes fusion between
pant
and
head. Pigskin.
Yes, that's right. I'm sure it could be done. That has that sort of cracky, acidy,
hooks,
unpredictability, lewdy, mad,
cheaty,
feral, fit, bad men. Eh?
Big pole.
That's too much to ask.
No, of course it isn't.
Afternoon. When Jeff went away, that is Jeff Kennett, I thought, hello, the cat's away. And there are a lot of mice doing a lot of playing here in Melbourne, here in St Kilda, here in Victoria. And I had a very quick call. Yes, thanks very much. I had a very quick call from the Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Andrius Papandreou. And he said, thanks very much for sending Jeff over. Terrific bloke, marvellous bloke, and it's about time someone like Jeff strode the international stage. He's done a marvellous bit of work. He's certainly set Greece alight. Certainly when he woke up and saw the sun coming over Mount Olympus, it was, a marvellous homecoming for Jeff, who's finally found where he really deserves to be. In another ungovernable part of the world. And if anyone can sort him out, Jeff can. And also, obviously, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia have been in touch thanking Victorians to a person for sending Jeff to Greece. They're very, very happy with that because if anyone can blow any of the Greek arguments out of the water, it will be Jeff saying they're tremendous ideas. And that's what he's been saying. Look, Jeff is a healer. And I can feel a lot of healing being done here in Victoria while Jeff's away. The longer he stays away, the more healing you feel will be done here. Congratulations. That is the mood. It's bringing Australia together. That's what he's doing. He's brought Victorians together, and I'm glad to say, thankfully, Jeff Kennett has allowed this to happen this afternoon by not being here. I've seen so many people embracing themselves, grins from ear to ear, confident as buggery, because they know the madman has left us.
The wrong is people are laughing about Alan Bond's drop in IQ. Now, I believe people are still laughing about Alan Bond's drop in IQ. I understand the facts are these. Alan Bond had an IQ of about 160 a couple of weeks ago. It's been pointed out to me that Einstein only had an IQ of 140. But then as I pointed out to the person making this outrageous claim, Einstein died broke. And I bet you one thing, no matter what Alan Bond does, he won't die broke. However, there seems to have been some heart surgery along the line, and suddenly the IQ's dropped to about 44, or minus child status. The facts are interesting, but Roy, when he came in here and put him on the couch and swung the watch in front of him, when did you first notice there was a problem with the brain box?
The first time I met Alan, he was just coming down off the ladder after painting that bloody big dingo on the road to Fremantle from Perth. You know the one, I think it might be Dingo Flower. It was a big dingo in red with an eye that never winked but followed you everywhere. Done on corrugated iron. Very hard to get a straight line on corrugated iron, you're given to understand. And I spent a couple of very interesting hours with Alan at the bottom of the ladder while he just fiddled about with the paint. And he obviously put the lid on it and put the paint into water. It wasn't Terps-based, just so that the brush wouldn't harden in the sunlight. I thought right from the off, he's a bloke who knows what he's doing. He's a remarkably intelligent man. Was a remarkably intelligent man. I remember him rabbiting on. See, he loved numbers. He was a mad numbers man. He didn't know it, but he was dabbling in pure mathematics. He'd never done any formal study, but he looked at what we can now see as Mersenne numbers, i.e. they're literally put down in the form of the formula 2 to the power of p minus 1, where p equals a prime number, and you get another prime number out of it. Now, Mersenne numbers are very, very interesting, and Alan stumbled across a new one. Now, let me bear in mind that it took one of the first computers 25 years to come across a new Mersenne number. Alan did it just like that. The Bond prime number, the Alan Bond prime number, is 2 to the power of 756, 839 minus 1. That's, interestingly enough, a Mersenne number as well. He loved Euclid, he loved Pythagoras, he loved Kepler, he loved Copernicus. But I think it was Wittgenstein that blew him away the most. His words, not mine. He was on the verge of cracking Fermat's last theorem before the operation. Fermat's last theorem, of course, is the equation, given the equation x to the power of n plus y to the power of n equals y to the, or z to the power of n, which has no whole number solution for n being greater than 2. As you can see, it's got people thinking already. It's a bloody bottler when you think about it. And Alan figured he'd cracked this and was just writing it down when, boom, the ticker, went a little bit off. He went a little bit off colour, had four bypasses, and when I shouted Fermat at him the other day, he just looked at me blankly. He was interested in George Smoot's cosmic background radiation experiments, that is the Kobe experiments, where the cosmic background radiation or the echoes from the Big Bang were heard. I think Alan was the first to tweet the idea that they may be there and set Smooty off. He discovered that the universal density of the solar system roughly equated to that of the human being, i.e. minus 1 gram per cubic centimetre. Nobody else had come across this. This is Alan at the bottom of the ladder. This isn't the sad Alan we see these days with the bypasses with the veins out of the leg in the chest, buggering up his head. But I will say this about Alan. On the one hand, while numbers were his go, he bloody well couldn't do up his tie. Shoelaces troubled him. He didn't understand the principle of the fork. So it was a sort of dual, he was sort of a savant. He had these islands of unbelievable intelligence, an idiot savant, dare I say. On the one hand, numbers, fantastic. And when you look at the numbers that he certainly cooked up, vis-a-vis your ledger, your general journal, they were pretty wild numbers. Hardly prime. But on the other hand, you were dealing with an idiot. And I think the heart attack has allowed that island of numbers to disappear and has allowed the idiot to flourish. And I think that's a very, very sad thing. But it happens time and time again, I think, we're starting to realise this now, that having a heart op is not all it's cracked up to be. You wake up without knowing yourself, you don't know what to do, you've got to relearn language, you've got to relearn how to drive a car, the doorknob can bug you up. So you can go in a perfectly rational, reasonable human being and come out a dud.
Yeah.
And I don't think medical science has addressed this sort of. I've never heard of this problem before. I didn't know it was so rampant. And why did it happen to Alan? I mean, who was the idiot cutting a hole in his chest? And if so, why isn't this person... Oh, I suppose this person will be brought up before the Beak in Western Australia to explain, make a few explanations. How long was the air stopped, the oxygen stopped from going to his head? And why would you stop the oxygen going to his head if you're working on his heart? Surely the idea of respiration, the idea is to keep the bloody thing pumping artificially while the bloke's on the nod. And you're fiddling around with the heart. You obviously stop it. Well, you've got to keep the blood moving somehow. That's why you have someone there whose job it is to boom, boom, boom. Well, what do they do? Play a practical joke? Some joke. You're frigging around with a bloke's head.
Roy, obviously, when you went in...
Yes.
Obviously, when you were called bedside to have a look at the bloke's mind, there was a lot of harmless hijinks going on by the medical staff. And I'm just wondering, as you point out, whether these people should be sued for every penny they've got. And if not, why hasn't Bondi fallen back on the Christopher Skase defence? I mean, I admire the bloke.
Well, that's a simpler one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a much simpler one. Obviously I smoked too much and now I can't walk. Never mind the video evidence to the contrary.
No, I smoked too much, now I can't fly.
But Roy, what disappoints me is the short shrift that the Alan Bond excuse for not bobbing into court and explaining the prime numbers vis-a-vis the Hong Kong bank. The short shrift that this was treated by the Beak. Justice Shepherd, who heard the application, he was perplexed by the fuss. He's obviously sufficiently well to be able to maintain a solicitor and counsel,
yes.
He said with enormous sarcasm from the bench.
Yes.
I can assure you, you could not be permitted to do this in an accident case, where you'd obviously have more serious consequences for the witness, i.e. if you had a car crash and you turned out to be a minus child upstairs, you'd still be asked to come along on why you didn't give way to the right. Justice Shepherd noted, I think with some humour, that the medical grounds for seeking a deferment of Mr Bond's bankruptcy examination had shifted. Yes. He observed that having started off with an alleged brain damage, but with no evidence of psychiatric illness, which I find baffling myself. I mean, I could understand if for years people have been warning not to lend money to Alan because he's a nutter. Yeah. He goes berserk with an axe at home, things like that. I could understand that now being produced in court. The argument then moved away from brain damage to depression. We all remember, Alan didn't want to go on. He was having trouble realising that life was worth living, all the common things.
He's down in the dumps.
Yeah, down in the dumps, Kurt Cobain style.
Yes.
Now, the brain damage to depression and its treatment, and now we seem to be moving back to where we were at the beginning. It seems to be going round and round in circles.
Yes.
I'm wondering if it's, we should just throw up our hands and say, OK, Alan, fair cop, you can keep the money, just save us the agony of these phony excuses.
Yes. Where does it come from? Where does it go to next? I mean, is he going to have some sort of psychological disorder? I mean, that would be my counsel. I'm sorry, my client cannot turn up, Beak, because whenever he leaves the house, he takes his penis out. It's an odd psychological disorder. We've tried covering him with a bag, but he just takes it off. My client has this compulsive desire to have his penis out at all times. I mean, that's a defence.
Yes.
I can understand him not being here. Case dismissed. But that would only work once.
Yes.
And the next time you'd phone Stomper, you say, how you doing? If he said, well, you know, my left knee's not so good, you knew he meant his right. Because Stomper was, you know, not a genius in the Alan Bond sense. He didn't realise that double bluff applied, so that if anyone phoned me and said, you know, Roy, how are you today? I'd say, well, my left knee's not so good, and the left knee wouldn't be so good, double bluff style, and they'd go for the right knee thinking that I was having them on. But that was football in those days. It was a psychological game. You had to outthink your opponent, not just be prepared to be brutal on the day, not just prepared to be stronger on the day, not just be prepared to, you know, go the thump, go the elbow, go the knee, go the date, go the nut, go whatever you, go the tool, someone mentioned, yes, all right. In certain clubs, after the match, it was a psychological game. You went out there and you thought your way through your game. And that's why I've got it wrong with these new age sort of coaches. They have this veneer of thinking about the game, but there's no thought going into the game whatsoever. And so the game is reduced to just a physical sort of game. And football, for mine, has always been an academic pursuit. It's always been an intellectual pursuit. That's how football was. And that's where football is going to survive. The universities are the hothouses for football of the future. That's the way it's got to be. And getting new age people in it isn't going to do it. You've got to go back to the basic roots of old coaches who are prepared to outthink the opposition rather than try to outthink themselves. There's no point going out there confused, thinking, you know, did I wash up this morning? Was it my turn? Did I get my dirty undies and put them in the dirty clothes box? You can't have those sorts of thoughts on your mind. You've got to be thinking, which knee is buggered on the bloke opposite me? That's where the focus has got to be. So I would go with a sort of new age. New age. Yes.
What's that like,
look, an old-fashioned idea where the brain does the thinking and the body does the talking.
Yes.
It's an old idea. The Greeks had it all those... The Macedonians in Skopje had it all those years ago. And I don't see any reason why neoclassical Renaissance style, we can't have it revived in 1994 to rescue codes in trouble. And football is in trouble. I mean, you've got to go to outrageous lengths to promote violence on television screens as a way of getting kiddies involved in the game. Wrong! Get them thinking football. Let them look at the scalars and vectors, the science of the game. That's where the future is. Not in just some hopeless, outdated, mind-bogglingly stupid vision that football is simply not. But it's fun to do so.
Ah, well, yes.
It is.
Yes.
Now I think about it, it's not brutal enough.
I was taken with...